You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
For the World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
You are listening to the Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling podcast with your host, Mr. Green. How are you? Thank you for tuning in. Glad to see that you have returned, and we got another week and another review going on with WoW superheroes and a little bit of the stuff that's going on in the pro wrestling world. First, if you haven't done so, please go by our social media platforms and follow us, like us, do whatever it is that you can to show your support, that being on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, etc. If you're on YouTube, which I know some of you are, listening to this, and you have not hit the subscribe button and click that little bell next to it, then what are you waiting for? This is completely free. It is not going to cost you anything, and you'll be able to get the notifications for not just podcasts like this, which at this point has pretty much turned into a regular event. 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right after the show goes off the air, I drop it so you can get the review of what's happening in WoW to some degree, and then a little bit of what's going on outside of the WoW-verse, what's happening with some other ladies wrestling, as we should always talk about. But it's pretty regular, but everything else that is going on right now. Sometimes we have some matches that are in the pipeline that, when they are edited and done, we drop them in there, and you may want to be aware of that, as was the last one. If you were not subscribed, then you wouldn't have known about Ruthless Lala taking on the Black Widow, which was a nice, hard-hitting match. Might want to go and check that out if you haven't had the time. But matches like that and other ones that are due to come up, such as one returning Casey Carlisle. She is going to be featured on the channel in the near future, along with a returning favorite, the natural-born legend, Crystal Rose. She will be the opponent there, and you certainly don't want to miss that one. So click that subscribe and the bell so you get notified. Everybody else, be sure to subscribe wherever you find this podcast. And like I said, go to our social media pages, and you can be able to stay in tune with whatever it is that we're doing. Podcasts are available wherever greater podcasts are presented. That being iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Google Play, so on and so forth, podbean.com. But you can absolutely, positively find all the links for everything that we do by going to the Nexus of the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. Go to WPNWrestling.com, and you can get some, you get all the links for everything that we have right now. If you're unsure about anything, always go there. That will take care of it all. And speaking of that, for those that haven't found out yet, it is a 24-hour stream, 7 days a week on the WPN channel. Oh, excuse me, not channel, but the website. The channel isn't completed yet. But 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it is all women's wrestling. I mean, if you are on this channel, if you're listening to this podcast, this is clearly up your alley. It's something that you like. So you need to go in that channel. You need to check it out. It's on all day, every day. And we are making that push to getting this thing on a Roku channel so that for you cord cutters out there, you have yet another option available to you. So be sure and keep your eyes open for that. And remember, your support in all shapes and forms counts. It means a lot. It really does. Before we go into the recap, I do want to address one of the wrestlers that I presented on the Facebook page not all that long ago. I believe October 13th 2019, as I'm recording it. Well, that's not the date that I'm recording this, but that's the date that this post went up. One wrestler that worked under the name Tiffany Roxx has pretty much announced her retirement from active competition, which is a little bit saddening for me. Now, granted, I know some of you that's out there listening right now do not know who I'm talking about, because Tiffany was a regional wrestler. I wouldn't say she's local because she did travel, but she basically stuck to her territory, which is about the Southeast. So Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee. I believe she might have did some of the Carolinas. But she was roughly around that area. She is a former NWA Women's World Champion. She had been featured on this channel a number of times, taking on a couple of people that you would all know. Kiera Hogan, who, which we'll be talking about later on, because she wrestles under the name Fire and WOW. The Priscilla Kelly. I'm trying to remember the latest. Rebel. She wrestled with Rebel. She also wrestled with and against the Black Widow, who was featured on the channel and really one half of the highest viewed video that we have. So Tiffany had interacted with, and that's just a few. I'm just naming the few that we have featured here. But she's been doing this for a while, and she had been wrestling. Well, I just said for a while. She'd been wrestling up around this area for quite some time. And up until, I want to say, late 2018, I believe that's been about late 2018, she pretty much took a hiatus and just stepped away, kind of without any big fanfare, kind of faded off. And the next thing you saw as far as her social media was concerned was mostly, hey, I'm at the Braves game, or I'm out with my husband, I'm this, that, and the other. It was never anything wrestling related, and was kind of sat back and waited for her to kind of return, but that never took place. In her post, she said many of people know that she's battled with neck and shoulder injuries over the last several years. And she announced her own retirement for wrestling based on that. I think it was just injuries, and even though she had been sitting out for some months, doesn't really feel comfortable getting back into the ring. And I'm not even sure if she had the desire to get back in the ring. She had a long time kind of removed from the business and has really found herself enjoying her life outside of it. So I just wanted to take this time to bring that up. And if any of you are not aware of who I'm talking about, please, I'm going to just mention one particular match. By all means, if you're trying to become familiar with her, scan through the channel and find some of her matches. Like I said, we got at least 4 or 5, I would imagine, if I'm remember correctly. But the one that I was saying in particular that I would tell people to look at, and I posted it on our Facebook page, is Tiffany Roxx versus Kiera Hogan. Again, that's Kiera Hogan. Some of you know her as Fire on WOW. It was an interesting match, and it was an interesting match for me to call, because I remember this taking place during what was supposed to be a women's tournament for this particular promotion, which no point in bringing it up now because the promotion is defunct. And I remember the promoter coming up to me saying that this women's tournament is going to take place over the course of the entire year, which I thought was a stupid idea. But what am I going to say? I guess he was presenting it as more grand than it was going to be. But he said it was going to take place all year long. And Tiffany was supposed to have come down in the first match, and take on Kiera Hogan. That didn't happen because it was in the wintertime and she got snowed in. She couldn't make it into Georgia. Sorry, I had to have a little sip there. And as it was, Kiera wound up taking on a guy in a women's tournament. She took on the intergender icon, Ashton Starr, and she moved on. And this is where the story gets interesting, because the following month, there's like, all right, well, Tiffany's going to come back. And I'm going to ask her, okay, well, who she's going to take on? She's taking on Kiera Hogan. Well, why is she taking on Kiera Hogan? Kiera's already advanced. I know, but, she never got the match. I'm like, well, that didn't make any sense. Why are you re-sliding Kiera in there? And what reason would Kiera have to want to wrestle her? She's already advanced. Yeah, well, that's just how we're going to do it this month. Now, so they are giving a match that really had no rhyme or reason, and I'm giving a match that I'm trying to make sense of in commentary, and I'm having to make stuff up to try to give it some semblance of logic. So now we got a match between two baby faces out of nowhere for a nonsensical tournament that's supposed to take place over the course of the entire year, which, by the way, they never did. I don't even think they went past this following month. And explain not only to the viewing audience, but I guess to the people, why Kiera Hogan's having to do this twice. And the fact that she's doing it twice, but whether she wins or loses, she's already advanced. So it doesn't really matter whether she gets beat or not. It was just absurd. But the point being is that these two took a nonsensical situation and really made a nice match out of it. They just went in, threw all the story out, and they turned it into a nice babyface catch as catch can wrestling match. And yes, Tiffany had to work because the fans were solidly behind Kiera in this particular instance. But really, up until this point, I thought it was the best match that Kiera Hogan had. I thought that Tiffany carried her. Maybe I shouldn't say carried, but it was early in Kiera's career. I thought Tiffany helped her to one of the best matches that she had up until that point. And I just wanted to give a little bit of the backstory before that particular, because it was just so weird and absurd. But yeah, if you get the chance, it is episode 38, Tiffany Roxx versus Kiera Hogan. That is my suggested viewing for some of you out there. And to Tiffany, if you happen to be listening, enjoy your retirement. Thank you for the matches that we've had together. Okay. Another thing. Well, I shouldn't even have to go into this in the course of a podcast, but when you're operating a all women's anything, I'm not going to let this be centered towards women's wrestling in particular, but if you're operating an all women's anything in a social media climate, apparently you're going to get some comments and questions and things like that just shouldn't even be talked about or addressed. So the first thing I'm going to say is that I am not going to mention this person's name. All right? Because I don't want to even give that kind of attention to it. But it does need to be said, look, I know there are a lot of attractive women that exist in the world of professional wrestling and other platforms that women athletes are on, or models, or et cetera, et cetera. But please, whatever these fantasies that you have, that you decide that you want to share with the rest of the viewing community, and like, I wish I could do such and such and this and that, just knock it off, okay? There's no place for that. The comments aren't going to get you the attention that you want. They aren't going to stroll by and read it and then suddenly look you up so they can go out on a date based on your lewd conduct. Most of them got other things that's going on and things to do. It is not going to do you any good. And if I or any other administrator see it, it's going to get deleted. Okay, so all of that to say is that most of us are adults here. Have some decorum. Have some sort of respect. Just, yes, they're good looking, they're attractive. I can understand whatever attractiveness or arousal perhaps that you may have, but leave your fantasies in your head. They do not need to be typed out for the world to see. All right. And I'm surprised that I even have to deal with that. I mean, largely speaking, you got people who are ladies that deal with this all the time, as the whole point behind the Tales of the Creep series. I mean, believe me, every once in a while in our inbox, we get some weird stuff too. And I guess I should make that public service announcement for those people that don't seem to get it. The Women's Pro Wrestling Network is not ran by any of the wrestlers that you see. Okay, so whatever these fantasy emails that you're sending in and DMs that you're giving, I'm reading that. If that helps you out any. Okay, so it's not going the way you think it is. Okay, get into the meat of the program here. The series recap for WoW episode 6. Well, I think it's safe to say at this point that WoW has a formula that it likes to abide by when it does these shows. I wasn't entirely sure about it when I first started watching it, but I mean we're 6 episodes in now, and I think it's a pretty safe bet to say that they're going to do essentially the same thing week by week. A series recap at the top of the hour, going into the intro, going into a promo, start the match, start the show. And that's pretty much what happened here. And it's going to sound at parts like I am crapping on this program. I am not. I don't know what it was this particular week. It didn't. The matches are fine. Let's start with that. Let's just go down with that right now. The matches were fine. Didn't have a problem with any of those. Because by and large, they do a good job. And there's too much talent there. There's too much talent for them not to do a good job. I've said it before. It's like it would be difficult for some of those girls that's on that roster to not be able to perform and do a good match. They have done it so long, so many different places, had so many different opponents and locations. I mean, they're just too good at it. But I think some of this structure of their show may have done a disservice to them. That's just my opinion. I welcome somebody to leave your comment about what you thought about the show in the comment section below, or send me the message. You can DM me, or you can send to Mr. Green 75 at hotmail.com. Of course, I will address that on there if you have something that you want addressed. But yeah, that's what the show starts off with. Starts off with a series recap of the main event, which is fine. They've done that week by week. Let you know what's going on, how this happened, how we got to where we are. And they seem to show new scenes. Like last episode, we saw this end with Jungle Girl and the Beast squaring off against each other, and then they go into the locker room. And then they kind of, I think the Beast gets speared through the door. They get the bathroom area of the locker room, and its show goes off the air. And this one, they have like new scenes within that, where the camera's on the other side of the locker room door, so we can see what they call the wildest brawl in wrestling history, which is pretty far fetched. It was a good brawl, but we really didn't see enough of it for to say that. We saw them get a spear through the door, a little bit of a confrontation, and then it just kind of cut off. It wasn't anything long or epic or anything like that. It was like just, they were going to play that up. I said they should have gone at it for a while or something. But in any case, that's how the show begins. Segment 1, we have Lana Star and Faith the Lioness coming out for the show opening promo, and Lana cuts a heel promo, which she's very good at. Lana has been in essence, the top heel of WoW since WoW was created. I mean, we're talking about back in 2000. Now, granted, we're not going to address the lengthy hiatus that they had, but yeah, she's pretty much been positioned as the top heel for a long period of time, and she's coming out to express why she got rid of Amber O'Neal, and more importantly, I guess in this promo, why they got eliminated from the tag team tournament, and that apparently, I didn't mean to get tagged into the ring, so that armbar that Jessie Jones put on me wasn't legal. I shouldn't have been termed as the legal man or the legal woman in this particular case, which is ridiculous, really. I mean, that logic would be perfectly sound to me if WoW had a rule book, or at least they expressed the rules saying, hey, unless the person voluntarily tags in, then, they're not legal. But, because WoW can control their own universe. If that is what they want, then blind tags shouldn't count. But they haven't expressed that, so that didn't make any sense to me. I didn't get it, quite honestly. It was a good promo because she does good promos, but I didn't understand that part of it. Like trying to explain, hey, we shouldn't even be in this because, or that loss shouldn't count. I mean, this isn't verbatim, but that's basically what she's getting at. That shouldn't count because I wasn't legal. I was like, come on, really? Where in WoW have they ever said that? But in any case, what that does is it's the same thing that we do all the time. You have a promo, it's got to bring somebody else out. And sure enough, that's what it did. They brought out Amber O'Neal and Jessie Jones. They come out there, address the claims of her being screwed, and then all of a sudden, an impromptu match for the tag team tournament slot that Jessie Jones and Amber O'Neal already won is being presented. That didn't make any sense to me. Like, why? Why are you doing this? What's the point of that? In the kayfabe universe of WoW, Jessie Jones and Amber O'Neal had absolutely nothing to gain from this match. They already advanced. They already were put into the second round. They already won. There was no management that came out and said that you had to have this match. There was nothing that otherwise forced them into having this match. Beyond the fact that there should have been some level of revenge for Amber O'Neal to Lana Starr, that was the only thing that really had to gain off of this. But that could have happened any number of ways, particularly given the fact that Lana apparently incited this incident between Jessie Jones and Amber O'Neal and the Dixie Darlings. Like, where was that? That should have been the next step in this feud. It should have been that, hey, we found out that Lana's screwing around with us. That would have given reason for them to have a match anyway. Them placing this tournament thing back into the field of play for this match was just unnecessary. And at no point did I hear the management, the announcer explain to the audience that, hey, this is a tournament match. I just heard it on the commentary, so I'm not even sure if they knew. It just, it just came off as weird to me. And this is more of the same thing that you got the first time that they had. Lioness working a handicap match and Lana continuing to run away from being tagged in. This only works against Lioness, in my opinion, as a character, if you want to call it that. I mean, I'm used to saying wrestling persona, but I know it's TV and he likes saying character. But this seems to work against her as an intelligent person. I can understand the story of Lana Starr manipulating everybody else over the course of the years with WoW. You can go back as far as the first incarnation of it. You could go Patty Pep when she turned into Patty Pizzazz. Her assistant Holly Meow with the first revival of WoW, and then Amber O'Neal becoming the Beverly Hills Babe. All of those instances that she had, there was no blatant, in-your-face example of Lana screwing them over. It was subtle, and it was there. And we, as the viewing audience, saw that. And as the viewers, we would say, oh, come on, man. You ain't got to take that. Those kind of moments. But there was not a just a blatant example of, okay, this person is just screwing you over. Get away from them. And here we got Faith and Lioness going through the same thing twice. Like, really? Come on. Faith, the first match put her in a handicap match where she had to wrestle the whole thing. She had to take on both Amber O'Neal and Jessie Jones, and she continued to get her butt kicked for about 5 minutes before Lana got pulled in and she tapped out. This is second verse, same as the first. Lioness is in here. She's working a handicap match. She's getting the butt kicked for 5 minutes. You know, I would guess, because the commentary did bring this up, and I'll give them credit for that. They did mention, like, why Lioness is just blinded by the Lana Star and Hollywood Promises and all that stuff. I mean, at this point, I would figure you have to address that. You have to address just the sheer stupidity of this woman to be bothered with this. I mean, because if I'm in a match and I got somebody that will not tag me at all, every time I even bother to go over there, she gets off the apron or she backs up or she see me in pain saying, go back in there, fight. I'm like, why on earth would I even continue to be dealing with this person? For what? The one thing that you promised me, we got knocked out of in the first round. I was like, we can't even go after the tag team titles. We're eliminated. So now we got this second chance, and she's doing it again, and Lana is repeating the same thing. It comes off with Lioness as just being played for a sucker, and not even just played for a sucker. At this point, I can't call her a sucker. She just... That's a fool me once, shame on me type scenario. I was like, you going back in there, you get what you deserve. It just, I believe one other person called it stupid babyface syndrome, but she's not even a babyface now. It's just being stupid. So I don't know. Faith the Lioness has a good future in WoW. She has a good build. She got a good look. She hung in there with Jessie Jones and Amber O'Neal. And if she's one of those cases that I would say if she took her act on the road, if she went and worked, I know that WoW is never going to really endorse that, but if she took her act on the road and worked some independence and worked with some other people and gotten the rhythm down, she could be really, really good. Physically, she's already in there. She just needs to know what she's doing. And she was working with two vets. She was working with Jessie Jones and Amber O'Neal, so of course they could carry her and make her look like $1 million. She just needs to have it too. Now that's just a side note. I'm just saying that just on the side because I don't want to rag completely on her. It's not her fault. That's just the way that the story goes, and she's a player in the part. But as far as like I said, the universe of WoW is concerned, it just makes Faith look ridiculous. So anyway, after getting beaten up and, you got a moment where Amber O'Neal literally takes Faith and walks over to her corner with her hand, forcing it towards Lana. So I said, tag her. She's yelling at Lana, saying, tag her. And Lana jumps down. I was like, oh, come on. So Amber tags back out. I mean, they're stretching this girl. They're just doing everything possible to her. She gets one good move in, does Faith, that knocks Jessie Jones down. It's kind of like a Trouble in Paradise. Not quite as athletic as Kofi, but good. She puts her down, and she gets close to the corner, and Lana's so happy to get into the ring now. She takes the tag, runs in, covers her. Jessie kicks out, goes and makes the tag to her partner, Amber O'Neal. And now we have the moment that I guess we have been building for, is Amber getting her revenge on Lana Star for firing her, for getting rid of the Beverly Hills Babe. Lana's in the ring. She's begging off. No, I didn't mean it. It was this, that, and the other. And, of course, we're not trying to hear that. So here's the moment here that I've become a little bit I'm not sure about what's going on, because Jessie Jones up to this tag team has been clear-cut heel. She is going out there. She's done, I'm going to make wrestling great again and this, that, and the other. And she's been the heel. Almost breaking people's arms and whatnot now. But now she and Amber are the de facto babyface because of the situation that they're in. They're facing off against Lana Star, so the audience is going to cheer to have Amber O'Neal get Lana and have her comeuppance, which is basically what happened here. She came in, tackled her, punched her in the face a couple times. Jesse Jones comes around, grabs Faith's feet, so basically yanks off the apron so she can't make the tag in. So we leave this between Amber and we leave it in Lana. Lana gets up. Amber's waiting on her, kicks in the gut, pops her with the X Factor. They call it the kickstand, which is basically sit out, face plant. 1, 2, 3. And we got the win again for Grits and Glamour. I'm not even sure if they officially go by that name. I know they've addressed themselves as that online. She did say it on Wild Television at least once, but you never know how that's going to go. Entertaining as a match. The outcome, that was the whole thing. It was just built to that outcome. The outcome made the entirety of this thing. I mean, you wanted to see Amber get her revenge, and she got it. Sorry, folks. I'm trying to get through the podcast, and I got a little bit of a cough happening. But you saw her do that. She got her revenge. Arguably, that should have been the ending of the first match. Instead of having Jesse Jones tapped out. I was fine with Jesse tapping Lana out, but you wanted to see Amber get her revenge in there. She got it. I didn't think it needed to be a tournament match to do it, but you know what? It is what it is. It's fine. And also, listen, I'm glad that Lana's capable of taking the bumps that she's capable of taking because she's doing more than some people in that roster, you know, as far as being a second. I mean, I know technically speaking, she's viewed as a wrestler, or they say she's returned to the ring. But I mean, let's call a spade here. She's a second, or a valet, or a manager. She's a wrestler by name, but she hasn't wrestled yet. So, given that, I'm not really sure if she's physically capable of having a match right now. You know, the fact that she's willing to, you know, let herself be bumped around even a little bit is admirable. But if she is going to not wrestle, then I would say just move her back into a managerial role and just leave it at that. Because the smoke and mirrors thing that they're doing right now, that can only go so far. You know, how many times can you have Faith the Lioness work in a tag team match with Lana Star where she does absolutely nothing? It already made Faith look like a idiot in this match. Let's not push that narrative. Let's get her out of that. You know, and if Faith is going to buy, they should at least have some kind of confrontation where Lana talks herself out of this. Like, hey, you know, I would have, but you know, my arm, something, just make up something. Just give me a reason that Faith would continue to deal with this crap. So in any case, just move Lana back into a manager role. Let her stay in the manager role because if she can't physically wrestle, it's only so many times that you can cover it up. So anyway, we go to the second segment of the show, Princess Aussie. And the video package. The video packages that WoW creates are nominally very good. They always have been. They've been good since I've started watching the show this season. I have absolutely no complaint for that. Covers a lot of ground. Recaps this particular package. Recaps the victory that she had over both Siren and Holiday, which I was happy to see it, but also felt like, why was this so long? Why did they take this long to explain that they had some kind of history with each other? Because if you hadn't seen season 1, or I guess season 1 as far as AXS-TV is concerned, you may not know what that was about, her being kidnapped. Like, it didn't make any sense. And speaking of things that didn't make any sense, we will go into the match, which is the third segment. That is Fury representing the Psycho Sisters taking on Princess Aussie. The first thing I had a issue with, and I put in my notes, is that Princess Aussie walks out like nothing happened. Now, on TV, this woman had been kidnapped by a voodoo queen and another painted psychopath, Holiday. And without explanation, she just shows back up on TV. I mean, they talk about it in the commentary, like, hey, she's been gone for what? I wonder what happened and this, that, and I was like, why are you wondering what happened? Why didn't you get an interview or something to explain this? I mean, at the very least, explain, like, have her sit down, like, you know, it was, I don't know why they took me, or, you know, I don't remember much, or something. I mean, she just walked right back on out there smiling and, you know, no, whatever. Just, where did this go? Why did she have this moment? More so than that, let's look at this. Before we go to the match, let's look at the circumstances around that entire kidnapping. Now, this happened 2 weeks ago. We are in week 3. Nobody made any effort to try to find her. Whatever friends she had in the locker room didn't even bring it up. The only thing that happened was it was talked about on TV to some degree. If I'm Princess Aussie, I would be seriously questioning what friends I have in WoW right now, or even the management for that matter. Like, y'all talked about this for 2 weeks, but what did you actually do to get me safe? You saw me get carried out of here on your television program and did nothing about it. Didn't send security, didn't call the cops, nothing. I mean, you know, and some of this stuff can be explained away, because I know in storyline you're trying to stretch it out as far as possible. Look, David McClain could have did something as simple as, folks, last week Princess Aussie had been kidnapped, and generally speaking, there's a code of honor that exists amongst the wrestlers in the locker room that they take care of their own things. And against my better judgment, I chose not to have security go find it. But this week, I cannot in good conscience let this go on any longer. I am sending somebody. You know, that'll get you a week right there before you can send somebody else. I have sent somebody out to go and look for this person, because I am legitimately concerned about Princess Aussie. You know, don't just talk about it like it's just another segment on the show. I mean, it's like nothing changed. Like, oh, Princess Aussie's been kidnapped. I wonder what happened to her, David. It's like nothing changed. It's like, this woman got kidnapped, and nobody cared. It was like there was no threat to her whatsoever. Now, the segments that they did for were fine, because a Siren or Nina Monet looked threatening. The little rhyme, I talked about that, the little rhymes that she was doing, you know, I was like, that was cool, and burning the bamboo sticks and all that stuff like that. But if I'm getting those videos back to me, and, you know, I would be legitimately concerned about this woman. It's like, hey, man, we got to find her. Or have some of the roster members say, have you seen Aussie? I haven't heard from her in a week or something. And, you know, it just seemed like it was just out of the blue. And I'm just going to walk back out here. Nothing happened. I'm fine. You know, no explanation, no video that we could put on Facebook at least, or, you know, something just to say, you know, I'm okay, or, you know, I'm trying to get myself together and move back on with, you know, with my career here in WoW. None of that. Just like nothing took place whatsoever. The other thing and I know, see, I told you it was going to come off like I'm ragging on this episode, but it just seemed like it's just stuff piling on out of the blue. The other thing that got me is saying, why is Mesmera there? Why is Mesmera there? This is the third component of the Psycho Sisters. Now, I don't know Mesmera. I never met Mesmera, never talked to her. You know, I know some of the participants in WoW have had the privilege to be able to talk to and sit down with a chat and text or whatever the case may be. So, but I don't, I don't have a relationship with Mesmer, and I'm not knocking her, okay? But she was advertised for a match over 2 weeks ago, which still hasn't taken place. She hasn't spoken. She hasn't said one word. No interview, no promo. Why is she there? Hadn't wrestled a match. All the important elements that she has for being on that show so far have not been fulfilled. So that was the one thing I wrote in my notes when I saw her walk back out again and say, why is she there? We've seen Razor wrestle. We've seen Fury wrestle. We've seen Fury wrestle several times. Mesmer is the one element of the Psycho Sisters. Like, what was the point in adding her to this mix? I mean, all she has done at this point is just come out there and, with the clown makeup on and walk around along with them, interfere a little bit, but that's about it. Razor could do that. She could interfere. It doesn't require two of them. I mean, yes, it makes it easier, but it doesn't need two of them for that. The only perk I see that she has thus far is that she could potentially pass for Fury's sister. That's about it. But other than that, I was like, there is zero reason that Mesmer should be there. Now, maybe that'll change. Maybe as the episodes roll on, she'll speak up or she'll explain herself or something like that. I mean, and that's the other thing. I was like, the only explanation you even have for Mesmer was explained by somebody else. They did a voiceover for her. They didn't, she didn't say anything. And even in the package where they had somebody speaking, it was Razor that did the talking, not Mesmer. If she's going to just be the nutcase that stands to the side and giggles or something, they explain that. It hasn't been explained. And even in the course of the match where she's, supposed to get punched in the head, the camera goes away from her. So I'm not even sure she could take a bump. I don't want to get worked up over that. So anyhow, we got Princess Aussie versus Fury. And we know that this is going to be a fine match. Again, like I said, all the matches that took place on this show were perfectly fine. Very few of the ladies that wrestled in this episode performed badly. I mean, it's kind of hard to. I'm trying to think of the word. It's kind of hard to gauge the matches totally, just because of the way that it's cut. There's a lot of editing that goes on here. Now, some matches are edited harder than others, but by and large, when you have two people that have some sort of wrestling background, they seem to do a good job. And regardless of whether it's cut hard or not, you see there's a good match taken there. And you got that. You got Simone Sheree versus Harlow O'Hara. All right, I know they go by Princess Aussie and Fury in the Wild Universe, but you got two girls who pretty much know what they're doing, and they delivered as far as the match is concerned. During the course of the match, the commentary keeps mentioning that Aussie could potentially be under Cyrus influence or something like that, which I never really saw. I mean, it's not like she came out looking any different. Like I said, when she came out like nothing happened. They didn't have any, she looked like she hadn't slept or nothing. It just, beyond the fact that she didn't have the sticks in her hand, nothing was different. So we're just going to fast forward a little bit of that. At the end of the match, Aussie takes control. She drops Fury, but is caught by Razor and Mesmer. And like I said, we never see Mesmer take a bump. We saw Razor get punched in the face and knocked off the apron, but the camera cut away when Mesmer goes down. And I don't know if that was intent or with intent or not. Aussie gets caught by Fury's finish. and Fury wins. Now, they did have a moment in the match where the fans were chanting "Fight Forever." So, like I said, I don't think that you were losing anything from the match. And the match itself is very entertaining. So, if you got the time to go and sit down and watch it, if you're listening to this and you hadn't seen the show, go check the match out. The match is good. But after the win of Fury, Aussie is attacked by the Psycho Sisters. So, we got all three of them coming in there and beating her up. And then, lo and behold, Siren and Holiday come out to confront the Psycho Sisters. Assumably. They see them. They not run away, but they back off. And then after that, Siren and Holiday slide into the ring and kind of corner or surround, whichever way you choose to put it, Princess Aussie. She's looking at them like, what's going on here? Well, what's happening? And she slides out of the ring and gets away from him. No real explanation, no backup as to, whether she was influenced by Siren or anything like that. I know that this is one step in a larger story. I accept that. But I am not fully sold on the route that we're taking to get there. The next match, or the next segment 4, the Fire and Adrenaline video package. Same thing I said with the other video packages, very good as always. Seems to include some videos that hadn't been seen, and it seems a little out of sequence in some regard. The only reason I say that is it seems out of sequence is because within the video package, it shows them meeting in the locker room and talking about, hey, you got a tag partner for the tournament, and I think it's Fire talking to Adrenaline, and she's like, no. Now we go back to a week ago. It was portrayed almost as if the decision to be in the tag team tournament took place right in front of the fans' eyes, right there in the ring when Adrenaline comes out to help her. It's like, hey, this could be a great team. We're announcing ourselves for the tag team tournament. Yay. So if they had met already, it's like, well, that decision was made before that even took place. I don't know what that was about. Or maybe I'm remembering it wrong. I don't know, but that's how it came off. But in any case, we know that Fire and Adrenaline are part of the tag team tournament, and this is the next match in the tag team tournament. The Vengeful Vixens, well, first off, the package was good. It's always good. The Vengeful Vixens, Temptress and Dagger versus Adrenaline and Fire. The smaller, faster team of Adrenaline and Fire started out strong against Temptress, who is the veteran of the Vengeful Vixens team, which some people will remember as Katie Lee Burchell, former Knockouts champion, and former WWE diva back in the day when they used divas as a name. So she did most of the opening work here, taking on both of them and taking the beating from both of them until she cuts off Adrenaline, who takes a moment to address the fans, as a good babyface does, I guess. And then the Vixens take control, and now Adrenaline is the one in trouble. Didn't have a problem with any of this. I know some people would particularly people on my page, they may look at Dagger and say that she, she's easily the least experienced of the team, but she did fine. Nothing outside of her skill set. She I think they kept it very basic for her to keep that thing kind of moving along, and she got the athletic prowess to keep it going. I'll put it this way: she's another one that I would think would be very beneficial for her to take that act on the road. I don't know if the Vengeful Vixens tag team can work independence in the California area. I know they're based out of there. And for that matter, I'm not even sure if that's her desire. I mean, for all I know, and I think her actual name, I believe, is Michelle Blanchard. But as far as I know, Dagger might not have any aspirations on being a professional wrestler at all. I mean, I know that there are people that have gotten into that business or that company who only wanted to be a WoW wrestler. Yeah, like in fact, I had an interview with somebody that said that she spoke with one of them. You know, somebody she was friends with. She didn't want to mention the name. She was just saying, you know, I was told that as long as I'm a WoW superhero, it doesn't matter. And you know, and that I fully believe that. When I see some of them, like I think some of those girls only want to be the WoW superhero. They're not interested in being a professional wrestler. But if she were interested in being, I think she's another name that could benefit from the polishing up that act on the road in some of these, you know, smaller promotions. You know, if they were allowed to take the Vengeful Vixens things out and kind of tour it around, then she would get much better at it, opposed to just, you know, I'm going to wrestle when the tapings come around and train for it a little bit. Because, there's some things that you just don't get out of a training environment. You got to be out there to really get, and that's not just in wrestling. I mean, just in life in general. There's some stuff you got to do outside of a training environment so you can understand it and you can really get your mind wrapped around it. Physically speaking, I think Dagger's great, but I don't know if she has what she's fully capable of just yet. So anyway, getting back to the match, I thought the Vixens were a good heel team, despite some of the inexperience within. Adrenaline hits a stunner to turn the match around. Hot tag to Fire, no pun intended. She keeps the thing going, tags back in Adrenaline, tries for a high cross body at the top, which doesn't score the win, but it's a nice maneuver. Fire cuts off the Temptress on the outside. Dagger is set up by Adrenaline, who hits an assisted sliced bread when Fire comes back in for the pin. And the team of Adrenaline and Fire advance in the tag team tournament. So as it is right now, like I said, we haven't yet to see any brackets, so we don't know who's going up against who. But I would imagine that this has to be the entirety of the teams. We haven't heard any new ones released, of course they could do that at any given time because they had people just announce themselves as being in the team as the tournament was in play. But the brackets so far, we're going to update, or the winners so far is Amber O'Neal and Jessie Jones. The Monsters of Madness, Havoc and Hazard, Sassy, Massey, and Chantilla Chella, Siren and Holiday, the Psycho Sisters, and Fire and Adrenaline. So that could be the setup for the next few matches. Now, I have absolutely zero idea of who is going to be paired off against who, because one thing that I've noticed with WoW since they've returned is that they do a lot of shades of gray matches, where people who have presented themselves as heels or something like that will come back and wrestle another heel person or a heel team. And I was like, I don't really get it, but they do it anyway. So, I mean, I'm going to just take a guess at a few things here, just based on what I could see. I could see the Psycho Sisters taking on Fire and Adrenaline. I mean, not Fire and Siren and Holiday. I could see that just based on the confrontation that they had thus far. I could see the Monsters of Madness taking on Fire and Adrenaline, which would probably cut Fire and Adrenaline off. I can see O'Neal and Jones against Sassy, Massey, and Chantilla Chella. I don't know who I would say would win it, but probably O'Neal and Jones if I had to take a guess. But those are all unofficial matches and matches that may not even take place anyway. But that's just the random guess that I have for the matchups that we have available to us. But remember, WoW is going on for a long time this season, so because I think they're up to like 20-something episodes. So they may choose to stretch this out for a ridiculously long amount of time just based on that. Who knows? I will go public and say this again. Why Cage Heat is not represented in this tournament in some way, shape, form, or fashion is beyond me. I mean, they don't even have to be in it. I would have them waiting in the wings, really, at this point. The tournament's already in play. They shouldn't even be in the tournament. Or at least in their view, they shouldn't even be in the tournament. They should be making some statement like, why would I want to be in that? Why would I want to be in the tournament? We never lost. You know, that should be the story. You know, you should have them, because we know that there's 2 sets of belts. We got the new ones that are silver that will go around the winner of the champions in this incarnation. And then we got the, I don't know if they're original, but we got we'll call it the older version of the belts that Cage Heat had that were gold. So, yeah, them come out with that against the people that win or the team that wins. I think that's a natural storyline to take. They probably won't take it, but it's a natural storyline to take. So, all right. So we move forward. Now, this is where I guess it starts to level off and we make some sense. The video package with the main event scene again. We just saw something recapping this from the beginning of the show, but they're doing it again. I understand why, because, you know, we got to explain it. Somebody that just walked into the show, you know, it's all good. But it is a second explanation for it. Two notes I got after watching this video package. One is that I don't understand the Tessa story. I understand what they're trying to say with Tessa. Like, you know, she's been manipulating the WoW scene to control her opponents, along with the help of Sophia Lopez. That has been the story, and as such, she has wrestled against the likes of Raina Reyes and Serpentine. I was about to say Cobra Moon, but I know that's not correct. So that all makes sense, okay? And I know somebody out there's like, what don't you get about it? You know, so let me explain that little portion of it. It's not that I don't get why they're doing what they're doing. I understand the why. I don't understand how they're getting there necessarily. Example being, Tessa Blanchard is more or less a heel champion. I think we can agree with that. And she's not using, but she has an arrangement with Sophia Lopez to help her keep that championship by somehow positioning and maneuvering people in that she could take on, or people that could take on in her stead, which is what we're going to get to in the next segment. So that's been the story. But what I don't get about it is this. If I'm the champion and I am trying to manipulate my way into these matches, purposely avoiding, because the storyline that they're trying to portray here is that Tessa is purposely avoiding Jungle Girl. She's purposely avoiding the Beast. Despite all this bravado that she's been displaying, she does not want to face him, which I'm fine with. That, you know, that story works. It's good for me. But her taking on Serpentine and then her taking on Raina Reyes, both of which have pushed her to the absolute limit in the main event. Like, what's the point in that? If you're going to get into a match with somebody that you can barely win anyway, then what are you avoiding? Like, you could barely win against Jungle Girl. You could barely win against the Beast. Why are you getting into a match with people that are clearly main event caliber people? And if given the right chance, could take the title from you. Why is she taking these matches? Like, you're not standing to gain anything off of that. It would be different if she was like, I'm giving Steffi Slazer, and I'm, you know, I guess I should talk about Steffi Slazer or pull her up, but that's the only example that I got. It's like, I'm giving Steffi Slazer a main event match. That would make the story, to me, very digestible, that this woman does not want to take on a legitimate contender. If you want to have her take on a match where she's having a high stakes match and a high end match, or like with Raina Reyes or somebody like that, then you force her into it. You know, or have the attempt to manipulate the matchup and the opponent fail, or something along those lines. Where, like she said, hey, I'll take on the next person that walks in the door. Well, they would have arranged it for Stephanie Slays to show up, but Raina pops in, ahead of her by mistake, at least in their eyes. So, I mean, I can see that in a number of ways, but the idea that she's the champion, she's the world's champion, I'm the fighting champion, and I'll take on anybody. I can understand the bravado in that, but the idea that she would be so adamantly against, I don't want to take on the Beast, I don't want to take on Jungle Girl, but I'm going to take on these other two ladies who've been just as, hard hitting or just as tough as anybody else. At that part didn't necessarily make sense to me. So here we have it. We're going to the main event. We come out of the video package. We go to the final segment, which is segment 7, and it is the Beast taking on a mystery opponent. Now, what we saw last episode and what was recapped earlier is that the Beast confronted Tessa Blanchard after the show, brought her apparently a signed contracts and told her being Tessa, sign it. So she gives Tessa a contract and just walks away. Now, Tessa did the smart thing. She took the contract to Sophia Lopez and she had one of her people sign a contract. So now, instead of getting the world's champion, she gets Nikki Krampus. And that is the main event. The Beast versus Nikki Krampus. And Nikki is the surprise opponent in this equation. She's presented as somewhat equal to the Beast in terms of size and strength and all that stuff like that. Nothing was wrong here. I think the only thing I may have changed, if change was necessary, is I probably would have had the Beast just smash her and go over and be done. Yeah, that probably would be it. But aside from that, I mean, the match in and of itself was fine. The Beast did pretty much smash her, gave Krampus a little bit of a comeback in there, but then she smashed her again and won. So I don't have a problem with the match. I just would have liked to see her more dominant. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think that's a make or break for the show. She did fine. So there we have it. The Beast wins the match following a spear. 1, 2, 3. We're done. Krampus rolls out, gets on the microphone, says, I want Tessa. Calls out Tessa. We do the end match promo deal here. Tessa comes out, and before she even leaves the aisleway, kind of brushing the Beast off, saying, or mouthing the words, you don't want none of this, and stuff like that. And as they're having their exchange, Jungle Girl comes up from behind, nails the Beast with a chair, puts her down, and then kind of walks out of the ring. So the title match situation is still very much in play between these three. Don't know where it's going to go necessarily, but I mean, it seems interesting that this show is a main event show. A lot of stuff seems ancillary to, in terms of, the side items or the side matches, side storylines that we got happening. They're entertaining, but this was pretty much a one-match show. It was built on the concept of the main event and the Beast, who is clearly being positioned as a babyface now. It's obvious. It's the nose on my face or the nose on your face that she is being positioned as the babyface, and she will be the top babyface there for probably some time. So anyway, there we have it, man. That is the review of WoW episode 6. I know it came off like I was just giving them crap, but like I said, after 6 episodes of that, I think it's hit me that, okay, this is the formula of WoW. This is how they're going to do it. This is the way the show's going to run. And some of that stuff just did not make a terrible amount of sense to me. That's just me. If you feel differently, if you have any opinions about it, if you think that WoW makes perfect sense or whatever the case may be, just put that in the comments below or send me a message or what have you. Speaking of messages and comments, I have one that I have to address before closing out the show. And I also have a poll that I would like to address as well. I recently put up one asking fans on our Facebook page, including all divisions in WWE, who, in your opinion, had the best women's wrestling currently? So when I say including all the divisions in WWE, I'm talking Raw, SmackDown Live, NXT. You know, if you include all the women of the women's divisions there, and then you put that roster up against the WoW roster, who do you think has, you know, the best outlet for women wrestlers today? I was a bit surprised in the results so far, and the results are listed right now: 63% to 37%. WoW is the lead as far as being viewed as carrying the banner for women's wrestling on television today. Now, there's many different women's wrestling organizations, but the ones that are the ones on TV as a full-on entity like WoW, or the divisions like WWE, those are the ones I wanted to address. I didn't bring up Impact Wrestling because there's a lot of crossover with WoW and Impact at this point, so I thought it was a little bit pointless. But it all works out. I mean, I was legit surprised. I thought that the WWE would have kind of carried it away because, I mean, you got Bayley, Sasha Banks, Charlotte, Natty Neidhart, Carmella, a number of really talented ladies there, but it's just not apparently, according to this audience, not perceived in the same light as WoW, which is amazing. One other thing, and again, for those that had questions or comments, please feel free to send that to the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. You can send it directly via Facebook. You can message me, Mr. Green75 at hotmail.com, or you can leave the comments. So either way, if you have something, you can shoot that over, and I will address it as best I can. The question that I got addressed with today isn't necessarily WoW based, although it ropes back around to WoW. So I will say that if it's something that's not WoW oriented, I will talk about it. It doesn't have to be WoW. I know I do a lot of WoW reviews these days. That's just because the arrangement I have with AXS-TV. But in any case, I want to read this from Miranda D. What did you think when the WWE removed the Fabulous Moolah's name from the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal? There are some in the WoW now that continue to sing her praises regardless of her past. Was it a smart decision? That is the question. And the short answer to that is yes. It was a smart decision by WWE to remove the Fabulous Moolah's name from their Battle Royal. Now, yes, I know that was a couple of years ago. If you remember the controversy that they had, like, what was it? I think it was Snickers. You know, Snickers sponsors the Battle Royal, and initially they named it the Fabulous Moolah Battle Royal, and then people jumped on lines like, the Moolah was pimp people out and this, that, and the other. And then the next thing you know, Snickers didn't want no part of that, so WWE removed the name. Simple as that. It's like, okay, well, your voice was heard. You don't want the name on there, so we'll remove the name. Now don't fool yourselves into thinking that the fans had anything to do with it. The fans were the first domino. The domino that ultimately made the change was Snickers jumping in there saying, we don't want that name associated with us. And so they pulled it. End of story. The reason why it's a smart decision is simply because of that. I mean, they're a business, man. You know, that's all that comes down to. It is a business, and they made a decision that is based on that business. I do know who you're talking about. I don't know if the world knows, because I was about to say Wrestling with Shadows. I cannot think of the series that was on Vice. Gosh, It's gonna hit me right after I get finished with the podcast, I'm sure. But I can't remember the name of the series that was on Vice not all that long ago, and they talked about a lot of these kind of misdoings and shady moments in history and wrestling, and the Fabulous Moolah was one of them. They addressed it, and I think Selena Majors was on there, and Peggy Lee Leather, or AKA Thug. I know Princess Victoria was on it. And Princess Victoria has been very vocal about what she felt about Moolah, as has Wendy Richter, who was also in that particular episode. So, yeah, I mean, I know that there's some people that like, yeah, the Fabulous Moolah deserves better than this, and this, that, and the other. Two of them I know that were WOW, or at least Selena Majors, and I don't know if Nigel Sherrod is still part of it. But yeah, I mean, because they both were at an event here, local to me, a couple of years ago when it was all ladies event, and they got out on the microphone and they made their opinion heard, which is their right. It's like, if it wasn't for the Fabulous Moolah, these ladies wouldn't be here today, which is arguable, I guess. But getting back to the question at hand here, I know I was kind of taking a side route, but WWE it is perfectly within their right to change the name of anything that they have. I don't feel like it's the WWE's responsibility to be the historian for pro wrestling. It comes off that way a lot of times because they own so much. And, they own the Mid-South Library, and they own the World Class Library, and they own, Memphis and Smoky Mountain, and, they just, ECW, WCW, they just own so much as it relates to the wrestling world that it comes off like they are the historians for pro wrestling, but they're not. They're not the historians for pro wrestling. They never claim to be, and they don't even take that position. The only times that these things ever come up with WWE is when it relates to WWE, or they can make some money off of it. That's about it. That's all they really have those things for. The reason that those libraries worked for them initially is because they had WWE 24/7, and they could put on a VOD match here or there, or if they were talking about somebody's career, let's just say Ted DiBiase, and they were releasing a video, or they was doing a DVD or something like that. And when they produced it, they gave them the ability to just go through the entirety of this guy's career. They could go back to Mid-South and Georgia Championship Wrestling and the WWF, and then WCW. They could pretty much tell his story mostly from start to finish. That's the only reason that those things existed. Not existed. That's the only reason that those things were purchased by WWE, is because they knew that they stood to gain something by having it. And then by them opening or creating the network, it became all the more apparent, like, okay, well, we have something here. We've got a reason to have these things. So they could just run stuff 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And yes, they produce more content, but having content that's sitting there that they could use at the drop of a dime always helps. So I say all of that to say that it ain't their job. It's not their job to, we got to facilitate so people know who the Fabulous Moolah was. They bring that up in the Hall of Fame ceremonies and things like that, but that's about where that starts and stops. Now, addressing the people that you're talking about, wow, that still sing their praises, that's their right. I mean, if they want to praise the Fabulous Moolah, I'm sure for them she was a great person. But you also have to, I guess this is the part of those stories that most people are unwilling to accept. Even the worst people in the world have had a good day with somebody. I was like, you got to give it that much. Even the worst people in the world have had a good day with somebody. There's somebody out there who's murdered somebody viciously that had a good day with somebody. You see it on the news all the time, man. Yeah, they interviewed a neighbor. They're like, man, that guy, he was a quiet guy. I never had a problem with him. I never knew. Yeah, how many times have you heard that? How many times have you heard people say something along those lines, or in the interviews, they interview the sister or the mother of this person. They're like, this wasn't the same person that I knew, and this, that, or they weren't aware of this lifestyle that they had. How many times have you seen that? Dave Chappelle made a joke about it, not about that specifically, but a joke that was pretty close, just addressing the dichotomy in people. Basically saying if he had a time machine right now and he went back in time with his white friend and they went to the start of the country, his view of how the fathers of the founding fathers of America would be seen different than his. Like, his friend could look at George Washington and be like, look, Dave is the founder of our country, the father of America, George Washington. And Dave Chappelle was like, run, it's George Washington, because for him, like, all he's saying is that guy's a slave owner and I got to get away. So, I mean, there's that. There's always this dual path. So just because, and I know Selena Majors and Nigel Sherrod and Peggy Lee Leather and all the ones that's out there that was like, Fabulous Moolah wasn't, she wasn't all these horrible things. She was great. Just that, I know that they feel that way. I get it, and I understand. And maybe to them she was. But that does not mean necessarily that the people that said that, hey, the Fabulous Moolah was a jerk, and she tried to pimp me out and this, that, and the other. That doesn't necessarily mean that those people are liars either. Now, I wasn't there, and I'm not bothering to do the research, and I'm not going to do interviews and all that stuff to try to piece this story together. All I'm saying is that I'm not going to discount the family of, I'm not going to discount Wendy Richter. I'm not going to discount Princess Victoria. I'm not going to discount the family of Sweet Georgia Brown, or anybody else that has said, hey, look, Moolah wasn't what you think she is. I'm not going to discount them. And there lies the real secret to this, because as long as there is one person out there, as long as there's one person that says Moolah did something heinous, and her name's not going on anything. And that's where that stops. And I know they tried to do some documentary, and I don't know whether they actually completed it or not. Well, actually, I think they did, because I know Sherrod was doing something on YouTube, to try to sing the praises of the Fabulous Moolah, and that's fine, and I'm sure she has some praises to be sung, somewhere in there. But I also know there was a campaign to try to get the decision reversed with the WWE. I was like, no, don't do that. Now that part, that's why I'm like, no, come on, give that a rest. Like, if you want to do a documentary and you want to talk about how good she was and all the bright things she did, do that, because that's on your own dime. That's on your own dime. That's your own time. That's your own effort. That's your own research. All that stuff is fine. But trying to, this online petition, because I think it was on change.org or, something like that. This online petition to try to get them to change the Fabulous Moolah doesn't deserve to be erased from history. Well, first off, she's not being erased from history. I had an issue when they came out and they started talking about that, because they never said that they were going to remove her from videos and stuff like that. The only thing that the WWE did was they took her name off of a battle royal, and as a battle royal, that doesn't mean anything anyway. So that is no big deal. She's still on the network. They haven't done anything with it. They haven't erased her. They're not removing her from video footage. They just don't bring her up. That's all there is to it. They just do not bring Moolah up. They don't feel the need as a company to try to endorse or sing her praises just to try to make the world feel better. Any more than they try to do that with Chris Benoit. It's like, look, Chris Benoit murdered somebody. He murdered his family. And I don't care how many people get online and try this crap about, I'm a Chris Benoit guy. It's like, first off, that's just wrong. Anyway, but it's plenty of people that get on there like, oh man, that's been 10 years ago. Y'all should get over it. It's like, yeah, all right. Well, let somebody murder your wife and the next guy come along and say, well, you should get over it. It's been 10 years ago. Come on, dude, give it a rest. The only reason people try to do that with him is because he was a star, and selfishly we want to see, they want to see him in the Hall of Fame. Well, you know what? It ain't happening. All right, for those same reasons. And the same thing with Fabulous Moolah. Now, I'm not putting her in the same category before, this gets back to Sherrod or Majors or anybody else like that. I'm not saying that she's in the same category. I'm just saying it's a similar function. That once you have a black mark on your history of any sort with a company like that, then, it's fair game. It becomes their decision to say, you know what, it's not worth us going through that time and trouble. Let's just leave that alone. And so that's what they decided to do. Now, the end result of all this, to really go deep into that question is both of them, well, I'm not going to say both because I don't know if one of them still works there, but I know Selena Majors does because her name is in the credits all the time. And if it's that important to endorse or sing the praises of the Fabulous Moolah so that the world can know how great she was, if it is that important to have that done, then you do it. It's all it is. It's that simple. You don't need the WWE to do that for you. I shouldn't say it like that. I should say they should do it. They should do that. If it's that important to them, as you put in your comment that they sing the praises of it, then they can sing the praises. That they have a TV show. It's on AXS-TV. They have an audience. They got a Facebook page. They got a website. They got all those things. They have the platform to do that as much as they feel like it. I'm imagining that mostly what she'd have to do is convince the owner or, the Dave McClain or Jeannie Buss to allow it to happen. Because it's one thing to ask or demand, I should say, that you say another company should do it, because that's basically what you're doing. We're going to make this petition and we're going to get change.org and sign it because the Fabulous Moolah's name shouldn't be removed from this. It's one thing to demand that some other company that you have no stake in do what you want them to do. It's one thing to do that because you ain't got no skin in the game there. But here you have skin in the game. And from my point of view, if it is that important that Moolah not be, quote, erased from history, and we need to see how great she was for women's wrestling in history, then have WOW do it. Put up make a pitch for them. Make a Fabulous Moolah Memorial Cup tournament that the WOW girls could participate in, and to make it in, have a plaque with her face on it, or whatever the case may be. Have her name plastered. You don't need the footage of her wrestling for that. First off, I'm pretty sure that somebody out there has footage that is usable, that they could get right now if they license it out or borrow it or whatever the case may be. I'm sure somebody got some footage that exists that they could use with Fabulous Moolah on it if they really wanted to. And secondly, even if you ain't got the footage, go to PWI like they did last time. Get some photos, get some pictures, get some of her in action. If they wanted to do that bad enough, they can make that thing happen. It's not excessively difficult. But the difference is now once you do it with WOW, now you got to deal with your boss. I ain't gonna. Let me stop pointing at her. And Nigel, let me just speak in generality. Once you do it that way, now you're dealing with something that's close to you. There's skin there. There's risk and reward there because now you're talking about with a job that you potentially work for. And your advertisers. Because it's just as easy as that goes on as with WWE and their show and their sponsors and their advertisers. I'm sure WOW got his sponsors and advertisers, and they got a network they got to answer to and all that good stuff like that. So, yeah, you can put the pitch together, and they could come up with this whole grand thing, but it would be just as easy as somebody at AXS-TV saying, "Who is this person, and why do I want her on my network?" And they could explain it. They could say, "Oh yeah, she was the founding mother of women's wrestling, and you should have her on." But that all comes down to perspective too, because if somebody else comes along behind that and says, no, she pimped some people out and she did these horrible things and she was a liar and a cheat and blah, 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 that's all it takes. That's all it takes. And now you create conflict. So all of that to say, WWE is perfectly within their right to not have the Fabulous Moolah on any of their stuff. I wouldn't do it either if I owned the business, because just like they're doing anything else, they're out there to try to keep their business rolling. And if Moolah happens to be a stumble block that it would cause problems in that business, then you remove it. And secondly, working for a company that is on TV and deals with women's wrestling all the time, that is a platform in and of itself. If it's that important, put it there. But I also understand that trying to put it there means that you got to explain it. And trying to explain that and why one company didn't do it and why we should might not be as easy as it's perceived to be. And that right there will really tell the tale of how important it is. So anyway, that was a long explanation for that. So, but I hope that it answered it satisfactorily. So in any case, that is the full episode and a review of WoW. I know it came off as a little harsh at times to some of the talents there, but man, yeah. Like I said, when I look at it through the scope of this kayfabe WoW universe, to me, some of those things didn't seem to make sense. I would love to hear your interpretation of it. Did it make sense to you? Should Princess Aussie come out a little bit more disturbed or like something happened? Should Mesmer have wrestled by now? Should Lana Star go back to being a manager and they should just stop pretending that she's healed up? You know, give me your insight, your input on this. What was the best match? What was well, I can't even say the words. All the matches were good. Yeah, but what was the match that you were happy with most of it? Should the Beast have just smashed Nikki Crumpus in 30 seconds and been done? You know, how did you perceive this entire show? And yes, a new poll will be up and available. I will give it, the show was great or did the show suck? You can go on our Facebook page and make that vote. I have streamlined it all straight to Facebook because I don't think a lot of people here know how the YouTube poll works. It did, you know, we got a couple of on there, but it didn't seem like a lot of people understood or clicked the annotation to be able to get the votes in. Facebook just seems to be a lot simpler, so we may just stick with that. So in any case, as stated before, you can listen to this podcast where greater podcasts are found. If I have missed any, please inform me, and I will go out my way to try to get the podcast in that location. If you have not subscribed, wherever it is that you are listening to this, please do. There are future interviews that are coming up that you may want to stay tuned for, future matches coming up that you definitely want to stay tuned for. And there will be more reviews coming along down the pipeline, and we can see how this story unfolds together. Maybe one day we may even have a online viewing party. That might be interesting to do that, to see if we can arrange doing a live viewing party together with WoW superheroes and get their reactions live as it takes place. That might be something to work on. So I'll give that some thought. I am stuffed up, folks. It's been a rough week. The weather's changing, the effect of my voice making me cough, and got this itch in my back of my throat. My nose is stopped up. But I am here to deliver. I take care of the Women's Pro Wrestling Network, and I take care of you. So that is what we got going on here. And with that, folks, I want to wish you a fair evening or morning or afternoon or whenever you happen to be listening to this. And with that, this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long, and we will see you on the next go round.